Good morning to one and all. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let us start the session. So, let me talk briefly about what is the intention of this session because covering the mains related issues is not that easy, and how we are going to race ahead in this journey that I would like to explain. First thing is we already have lot many modules tailor made for mains. Around 200 modules for various GS papers are available with Learning Space Digital. Around 700 to 800 questions they have been discussed, and you can watch those modules with Learning Space Digital. That is the first thing. Second thing is, through these sessions what I try to convey is, for GS1, GS2, GS3, I am trying to link various static elements with dynamic elements and posing various questions. I would like to discuss what is the way forward for answering such questions. And let me repeat once again that connect the dots modules. There are around 700 to 800 questions have already been dealt with from mains perspective. They are available with the Learning Space Digital. That is one dimension for facing the mains. As far as second dimension is concerned, I am taking up 20 live sessions on Tuesday, Thursday morning 10 o'clock, 1.5 hours. For these sessions, I am posing 10 questions in advance, and not only answering those 10 questions, I would like to discuss broadly what are the contemporary issues. And for this, what I am doing is I am going through the editorials for the past 2.5 years. So, for the past 2.5 years, I am going through the editorials, and after going through the editorials, I am arriving at what is the best course study material which I can deliver to the students. So, we are starting with constitution and polity. After that, we will go to economic development. It will be followed by social justice and governance, then international relations, then internal security, Indian society, all these things. And I am not touching Indian geography because several geography related modules are already available with LSD platform. Similarly, I am not touching ethics and case study because ethics related modules, number of modules are available. That is one aspect. And the second aspect is with regard to the case studies. Number of case studies are also available. So, having said this, another important dimension I would like to talk about for the students whoever are aspiring for 22 examination, these sessions will be useful not only for prelims but also for mains of 2022 because prelims is becoming more concept oriented. After watching all these modules, your journey to 2022 exam will also be smooth. So therefore, what I suggest is please watch all these modules. The students aspiring for 2022 also, because for 2022 prelims also these sessions will be useful because now UPSC is entirely concept oriented. Whatever concepts we are deliberating through these sessions, they will be useful in answering the prelims questions with clarity, right? So 20 sessions, live sessions. I would like to take 4 sessions for constitution and polity, then 4 for economic development. Like that, these are bifurcated, and not only giving the answers, guidance will be given how to tackle a question. And let us start with constitution and polity federalism. And my request is all the students, please keep your microphones muted. And I will take questions. I will take your suggestions because no one person can give or can do 100% justice for UPSC. I would like to take best practices from you also so as to modify the answer writing process. Right. I would like to start with federalism today. And before going into federalism, Any question, UPSC question, answering any question requires the 4 dimensions. First dimension is, what are the keywords in the question? Keywords, several things will come into picture. Suppose doctrine of severability, like the doctrine of repugnancy, such type of words are keywords which appear in the question or which appear in the statements. You should have clear idea about these keywords. Second is directive words. What exactly they want from us, they expect from us. That is indicated in the directive words. Third is knowing the core concepts. Without knowing the core concepts, you cannot answer the question straight away. So therefore, third element is core concepts. Fourth is presentation. So any answer in UPSC revolves around these 4 things. And these 4 things I would like to explain for several questions. And when we talk about federalism, students must keep in their backup of mind certain important information that is very, very important. So for your preparation, what my suggestion is, suppose federalism, suppose local self-government, suppose functioning of the parliament, comparing constitutions of India with other countries, constitutional bodies, like that your syllabus is there. And for each and every syllabus, in the backup of the mind, you should have certain mind map. First of all, create certain mind map as far as particular topic is concerned. So when you talk about federalism, how to create the mind map first? For creating the mind map, I will tell you with this example, because here you see quasi-federal. You write on a corner quasi-federal. Why India is called quasi-federal? Keep in your backup of mind. Quasi-federal means all of you are familiar. Article 1, Article 2, Article 3. At the same time, centralizing tendencies. All these comes under quasi-federal constitution of India. Second is central government, union government controversy. That is, Tamil Nadu raised an objection for calling central government. It is started calling union government. Then the next one is fiscal federalism. What exactly is the fiscal federalism? And how states are dependent upon the center? How the states' dependence increased? Fourth element is combative federalism. What is the meaning of combative federalism? What are the features of various combative federalism? Like that, you create in your mind map. That is very, very important. So for each and every topic, create various elements and keep it in your mind. That should be at your backup mind. And after that, if you attempt answering the questions, it becomes very easy, right? So this is what introduction I would like to say. And before going to the first question, anyone would like to add anything? Because I do not want to talk about 2021 prelims now. I will conduct one more session for 2021 prelims. What is the further course of action when you look at 2022 prelims? So let us not raise the issue of prelims 2021 here. As far as mains is concerned, anyone would like to add anything at this juncture before going to the first question? Anyone would like to add anything?
Sir, are connected those module and these ones enough for current affair portion, or do we have to go to the editorial as well?
So what I am planning is this connect the dots modules plus my discussion for 20 modules plus editorials from June 2021. That is enough.
Okay.
Let me repeat once again. Connect the dots modules plus my 20 modules plus editorials from June 2021, because some of the recent issues I may not be able to cover because they are continuing. So therefore, please concentrate on these 3 things. That is my request. And at the same time, when you look at the static portion, because you see, static in the sense, suppose syllabus of constitution and polity, there is one syllabus like comparing Indian constitutional scheme with other countries. There only certain elements of dynamic aspects may be there. For those topics, you have to rely more on static domains. That is the fundamental point, don't miss, because you see, comparing constitutional scheme, we may look at what is the difference between Germany and India. We may look at what is the Lysite, or you can say France way of secularism. We can look at unitary features versus federal features of India and USA. Such type of things we are going to deliberate because these are in the news. Other than these things, several elements pertain to static. So don't forget that. Got the point?
Yes, sir.
So static elements, please don't forget. Dynamic elements, and based on which the static is required to be recollected, that I will concentrate. But if you look at each and every part of the syllabus, there are some parts of the syllabus where you should rely more on static. So that element don't forget. Otherwise, as far as dynamic is concerned, connect the dots. My lectures plus editorials from June, that will take care of your current affairs requirements, and at least you can answer 50% of the questions with confidence by watching all these modules. Any other question? Anyone would like to add or anything? Or straight away shall we go to the first question? And have you got the point when I said create mind map for each and every topic? What do you understand by this? Right. So when you look at the first question, so shall I go to the first question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Sunil Kumar sir, can you please share the screen if possible? Right. So the independent constitutional bureaucracy, I am looking at the first question. So the independent constitutional bureaucracy, once considered the steel frame, degenerated towards politically buffeted bureaucracy and committed bureaucracy. So sadly christened as battered tin frame. Comment: how far the strain in center-state relations further hastens this downfall? So friends, if you look at this question, it asked comment, and look at the second part of the question. Second part of the question is how far the strain in center-state relations further hastens this downfall. So in the question itself, there is implied understanding. Though the question is comment, but there is implied understanding that something is going down. Something is going down because you see the second part. How far the strain in center-state relations further hastens this downfall. Right. So here, two important things I would like to tell you. One is keywords. Second is directive words. When you look at the keywords, I think one of our friends' microphone is on. You can keep the microphone off. Right. So the first question, if you see, just look at the keywords. Independent constitutional bureaucracy. Once considered a steel frame. Right. That part is very important. And for that part, you have to write the best way is identify the keywords. Keywords are constitutional bureaucracy, independent bureaucracy, steel frame. What is the second part of the keywords? Politically buffeted bureaucracy, committed bureaucracy. Independent bureaucracy opposite is committed bureaucracy. And steel frame opposite is battered tin frame. Comment. And the second part, if you see, it is leading to certain conclusion. So therefore, what is the best way here? The best way is first part, left side in the answer sheet, you can write steel frame and independent bureaucracy, and you can write 3-4 important reasons there. You can quote Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, what he said, without All India service, he clearly said, without All India service, Union of India you cannot visualize. Like that, the first part you can write quoting from static part. Second part, that means left side you write independent bureaucracy, steel frame. To make it much more clearer, you write and how it degenerated, write it towards right side. So right side part is dynamic, left side part is static. Right side part dynamic, you have to give some examples. Here your conceptual clarity of current affairs will come into picture. Right side, what can you quote here? You quote one example of recent example of Alappan Bandopachai episode, where the chief secretary he could not present when Prime Minister visited West Bengal, and subsequently he was issued show cause notice, and he was with the chief minister. That is one aspect. Second aspect is CBI. It is termed by the Supreme Court as caged parrot, and whenever you are commenting or criticizing about certain things, it is better if you will go by the Supreme Court judgment, if we go by real facts. That is very, very important. Don't go with some hearsay. It is deteriorated, everyone is talking about it, it should not be like this. Don't write that way. The best way is left side steel frame, give 3-4 important points from the static. You can easily quote from Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel or some other constitutional figures. Right side is very, very important. So committed bureaucracy, politically buffeted bureaucracy. One politically buffeted bureaucracy example is, classic example is Chief Secretary of West Bengal government. And there was tussle between West Bengal government and central government. And in that context, Alappan Bandopachai episode, he was criticized for his attitude for not attending the Prime Minister's visit. Later on, he was charged with show cause notice under the Disaster Management Act. Second is the bureaucrats caged parrot example you can quote. Third one is one IAS officer touching the feet of the chief minister. So fourth one is some bureaucrats tussle is open. You can quote some example with regard to the topmost position which occurred in CBI some time back. So these are the classic examples of supporting this battered tin frame. So comment part, definitely there is erosion, you can conclude. That means the best way is left side static, right side dynamic. After that, in the conclusion, you can write there is no doubt lot of erosion. And the next part is how far the strain in center-state relations further hastens this downfall. Yes, definitely center-state relations, there is a lot of strain and it further hastens the downfall because all India services, the cadre control is with the central government and they are working with the states, allotted state. And when there is a strain is there in the center-state relations, the buffeting of the bureaucrats will take place. So that way you can come and final conclusion, the bureaucracy has seen similar type of downfalls, similar type of aspects during emergency also, but it came out of that, even judiciary came out of that. So like that, with some hope, you can conclude this particular question. Anyone would like to discuss anything about it? Anyone would like to talk about this?
So in the second part, it's asking how far the strain in center-state relationship further has this downfall. So what can be some examples in this in the current context?
In the current context, first part, are you satisfied?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Perspective.
Right. Second part, how far the strain in center-state relations. Can anyone talk about some examples? I'm not able to recollect.
Sir,
How far?
one be the first example that you gave in the Kolkata case, I mean West Bengal case, because
Yes.
it's center state, that's none.
Yes.
Except for that, if anyone else remembers.
Anyone else can give any other example? That is the idea of this group discussion basically.
Sir, reservation of need seats with respect to Tamil Nadu.
Sachin,
The reservation of need seats. Tamil Nadu is going away from the reservation.
uh,
Need.
a NEET examination example, can you quote here?
So,
I don't think so.
Sir, can we put example like Andhra Pradesh and Telangana High Courts are frequently asking chief secretaries, DGPs for giving some reports on government elections.
I
sir,
don't.
center using this various agencies against the ministers or opposition party leaders of the state, like in Maharashtra, that Ajit Pawar recent episode. So
But
this view,
can you, because you see, whenever we are quoting in such type of questions, it should be concrete. One important suggestion is it should be concrete in the sense, caged parrot you can quote. West Bengal episode is clear. That is in front of our eyes.
Sir, West Bengal
Sir,
refusing
Please,
constitutional.
send up not releasing the GST compensation due for the states.
the voice is not clear.
Sir, sender not releasing the GST compensation that is due for the states.
Can anyone clarify this? This I am not able to.
Sir, he is talking about the GST compensation, but I don't think that is.
No,
That
it is
is
talking about bureaucracy. Bureaucracy downfall is the first part. Bureaucracy downfall, how the center state relations will further hasten this downfall. So when such type of question is there, what type of examples can you quote? Because you see, in the UPSC, normally in a hurry, within 7-8 minutes, we write many times irrelevant things, because that is the biggest problem of answer writing. So therefore, for this type of question, if you practice such type of number of questions, then I think you can arrive at a reasonably good answer in the mains examination.
So what I feel is in the center-state relations part, how is it degenerating or how is it hastening the downfall? We can break it into the center-state relations in administrative sphere, legislative, and fiscal domain. So fiscal domain, what our other friend was telling, finance secretaries of the state writing to the finance secretary of the center to release the GST compensation says so as to adequately compensate them. For example, in that administrative sphere, center imposing a certain scheme, for example, states opposing the Pradhan Mantri Ayushman Bharat, like West Bengal, having their own scheme. So can we break it into like different domain and write it?
This is, I think over. Tomorrow we can discuss this. Tomorrow Thursday session is there. So we will discuss this further. You can come with more ideas before coming to the conclusion, because I am not able to conclude perfectly this second part. First part you can write beautifully. There is no issue
Sir,
about this.
Delhi government, CM versus LG, where appointment of various officers like chief secretaries always a dispute. And second thing, during the lockdown, the Prime Minister take a video conference of various DMs, district magistrates and other officials. And
Yes.
similarly, Union Education Minister interacted with various officers for discussing national education policy, for which various states objected that directly a central minister or prime minister bypassing the state authorities, state government and ministers should not interact.
Yes, absolutely. This appears more relevant actually, because it indicates that strain in center state relations, instead of coming through political executives, one political executive discussing with the bureaucracy, that is not in the right taste. So you can write this type of wording. In recent times, the political executive at the center directly discussing with the bureaucracy at the states, bypassing the political executive at the states, that is not in the right taste. And you can give these two examples, and that way probably the best possible answer will come out. What I feel. Anyone disagree?
no, sir. I think now it's good enough. Now
Yes,
that
yes. Right. Let us look at the second question. With the passage of Government of National Capital Territory Amendment Act 2021, the elected Legislative Assembly and the Council of Ministers became a chimera. What is the meaning of this chimera? Anyone can tell? Please come out. This is almost what you call zero or powerless or something like that. In that context, this word is used. So
Vestigial.
means
No, this actually means an organ with like appendix which has no role in the body. It means
yes, yes,
vestigial.
yes. So therefore, its
Sir,
role has
sort
please
of defunct, sir. Defunct.
defunct. Yes. In that context, because you see, GNCTD Amendment Act was passed, and subsequently the elected Legislative Assembly and Council of Ministers, there is a critical viewpoint that they became powerless. Do you agree with this opinion? Give recent arguments. And here, first of all, the key word is National Capital Territory Amendment Act 2021. Students should write at least 4 or 5 points. What happened because of that? I would like to talk about these 4 or 5 points. I have noted down because first is government means Lieutenant Governor. Second is all files need to be sent to LG for approval. Third is no decision of Council of Ministers can be taken without LG's approval. Executive decision also to be approved by LG. LG is necessarily granted an opportunity to exercise these powers and shall not consider, that means Legislative Assembly is aligned with Parliament. So you can say it is clearly stating LG is king. For each and every matter, LG is having powers. First of all, for this answer, you have to write what happened because of Government of National Capital Territory Amendment Act 2021. That is the first point. So whatever I told 5-6 points, you can write. After writing it, he is talking about because of this they became defunct. Do you agree with this opinion? So which way you want to go? Or via media? You have to give reasoned arguments because you see, if you look at the history of this particular issue, the Supreme Court judgment of 2018 said for Lieutenant Governor, any matter cannot become every matter. So you can start probably with this at the beginning, because when such type of question is asked, what is the history behind that act? In the beginning, you can make 2 statements stating that in 2018, the Supreme Court gave judgment indicating any matter cannot become every matter, and the Council of Ministers and the elected government, they should have absolute powers as far as the items other than 1, 2 and 18 or so in the state list. So therefore, with that, what happened is state governments, that means Delhi state, except that police, except that land matters, is required to function just like any other state government. You can write in 2 statements because I am explaining here. You can write in 2 statements at the beginning. After writing this history of 2 statements, then you can write what are the provisions of Government of National Capital Territory Act 2021. After that, your viewpoint comes. You can go via media, you can go quite with the government of India, you can go with the critics' opinion. So which way you want to go? Because here you see, better in my opinion is, it is the National Capital Territory. And here It is another union territory. It is not a full-fledged state. But still going up to the extent of giving unlimited powers to the lieutenant governor makes the state government almost powerless. So, what is your opinion? Tell me on this. What way would you like to go?
Sir, one question is there. So if there is a Supreme Court judgment and if government makes a law which is contradictory to that, then what happens to the law? Like, is it still valid or
Supreme Court
like-
is silent after this law,
yes?
and everyone is silent after this law. Anyone would like to react on this?
Sir, after this, like tussle will become more frequent. After this kind of law, like all files need to be sent to Lieutenant Governor for approval. So, with the opinion that there will be more frequent tussle between center and the Delhi Council of Ministers. So, I think we can write for that because we will get many points for that. Like judgment of Lieutenant Governor will prevail. No decision of Council of Minister can be implemented without its approval. So he's becoming the main executive head rather than what Constitution has got the provision Constitution was thinking of doing.
So the fundamental point is it goes against the constitutional remit because Delhi is created with Article 292 what is the article number 239 AA or something.
239A.
239 AA. It is directly
239A.
AA, I think.
AA is related to Puducherry.
The 239 AA.
Yes, yes.
It's A.
239A, let me clarify here. 239A facilitates Parliament to make laws for the creation of assemblies for union territories, based on which Parliament brought the laws and created the assemblies, that is Jammu and Kashmir and Puducherry. That is 239A and through enabled legislation. But 239AA is the constitutional construct for this National Capital Territory of Delhi. So therefore, two things you can quote if you want to go, if you want to ensure that state government lost its entire powers. It goes against the Supreme Court judgment. It goes against the constitutional 239AA article. That way you can argue. And finally, you can put one point also. Whatever the constitution, whatever the laws, main thing is the implementation lies with the conscience of the people who are holding the high positions. So that point also you can quote somewhere. And anyone would like to get better answer for this?
Sir, one point I would like to add is that in democracy, consent of the governed is very important. So, I mean, for legitimacy of the state, if you look at political philosophy, then consent of the governed is required. But in this case, what is happening is there are like around 3 crore people in Delhi, and their opinion that would be reflected by the Council of Ministers because they are democratically elected. And if they are being bypassed by a lieutenant government, then somehow we are compromising with the consent of the governed. So that is one point I think put forward.
Yes. You can write these 3-4 points. One is it goes against the ethos of the constitutional scheme of things under Article 239AA. Second is it goes against the Supreme Court judgment. Third is, as you rightly told, it is some sort of what you call the rights. You cannot call rights. It is suppressing the voice of the governed, something like that you can quote. And any other point anyone would like to add for this?
Sir, you
Sir, can we
also-
say that?
Sorry.
Sir, can we say that it is against the parliamentary form of government? As my
No. Don't quote that. It is basically it is union territory. You can also come this way. Though it is a union territory, constitutionally some form of governance, excluding certain items in the state list, are given to the Delhi. So therefore the center cannot take away those powers. And to take away those powers, because you see Schedule 7 is sacrosanct. Schedule 7, you see, except these 1, 2 and 18 or so, remaining powers are supposed to be with the state government. So that way I think you can quote 3 points basically. It suppresses the voice of the governed. Second is, it goes against the Supreme Court judgment. And if at all such change is required, it is better if the government has gone for some constitutional amendment. Because when the Delhi is constructed with Constitution 239 AA, without going to the Constitution, how can you strip all the powers? I think this viewpoint you can pose, I think. Anyone would like to add? Please.
Sir, can't we see the other side of the coin? Because Pondicherry and Delhi are both are having legislature and union territory at the same time, but we can't compare between these two due to the separate national interests and internal security and diplomats from international summits and all these things, and recently the Delhi riots and all these things. We need a unification, integrated administrative point of view. So, and one more thing is Delhi legislature is happened because of Parliamentary Act. So if something is happened with the Parliamentary Act, we can amend that same act, right?
Parliamentary
and
Act.
coming to, yeah.
But
yeah.
is it not subject to 239 AA? What is the intention of 239 AA? It created. What is 239 AA?
So the assembly is created according to the constitutional provision of 239 AA. There was no separate act which was passed. For example, Pondicherry, it was created on the basis of an act.
So that's what I told at the beginning. Pondicherry, Jammu and Kashmir, it is created through the enabled legislations. But
my intention is to 239 AA gave the authority to Parliament to pass particular act with respect to Delhi government, right? 239 AA.
Yes.
One clause of 239. So if some and Lieutenant Governor directly reporting to the President of India. So I hope central government has some authority to pass acts with respect to Delhi.
Sir, we'll have to cite both
without
the
passing
views here, like
without passing any act, the tussle between the CM and Lieutenant Governor will
Sir,
always
what
continue.
I think we should present both sides of views and we should follow answer like this. First, we should explain what is GNCD Amendment Act, what are the clauses in this, and then we should reflect the center's argument why the law bring by center, like a special status and national security, whatever it is, and embassies of various countries, why Delhi is special. Then we should follow other side from the like suppression of voice of government, ethos of democracy, Supreme Court judgment, and like that. Then finally we should conclude with a medium path, like whatever those of democracy, but also keep in mind that Delhi is not like other states or other union territories. It is something special. It is the capital of national government. That way we should follow, I think.
so there is no harm in accepting in the conclusion that this is a gray area and maybe the judiciary should step into clear so that good governance is not sacrificed. We can
Yes. You can take some via media approach because both sides have got strong viewpoints in this particular case.
Governance of Delhi would have a bearing on the entire country, and we can cite recent examples that the state government not willing to share DTC buses for mobilizing farmers and all. So that may have, some, and that was the precise precursor, or we can say the trigger point for this legislation that came.
Yes. So, right, let us
Sir,
try.
sir, some voice music is coming. It is disturbing.
Somebody, please. Okay. Right. Shall
I
I
have
go
one more?
Sir, I have one point.
Please.
So, like the very basis for creating legislature and council of minister in union territory was to fulfill democratic aspiration. So, can we include this in conclusion or in starting part where the basis for union territory of Delhi and Puducherry having legislature and council of minister was to fulfill the democratic aspiration of the people. Now, if lieutenant governor or president will directly act through the administration, then that principle of democratic aspiration won't be fulfilled for the people. So that's why it's important to make this a more a democratic institution rather than streamlining the center state relation into a single bound like that.
So I think it is better to conclude here.
I have a question, sir. Sir, in these type of questions, that do you agree with this opinion type of questions? Should we go for a balanced answer writing or one-sided answer writing?
It all depends on the issue. In this particular case, it should be balanced. As far as my opinion is concerned, if you ask me to write, what I will write is, center has got its own argument with regard to the national security. Embassies are there. National capital territory is very important. At the same time, you see the other side. If you see the other side, the aspirations of the people can be met through the legislative assembly because they are elected by the people. And subsequently, now with this particular act, almost the Council of Ministers and the Legislative Assembly became almost powerless. With this type of arrangement, the aspirations of the people cannot be met. So therefore, under these circumstances, it is better if that means whatever they have done, they could have done in a much better way. That way you can conclude. Instead of making totally powerless. If they want, they can take some more powers. Because now they have taken land, they have taken this law and order and all. They can take some more powers, nothing. Now what happens? It's almost a gray area, entire administration. So therefore, it is not advisable when such type of gray areas are there. Everything is to be approved by Lieutenant Governor. So that way, I think you can take balanced view.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Right?
So can we use the the phrase of separation of powers here, that like it goes against the separation of powers which forms the basic structure of the constitution?
No. Better not to basically, because it is too extreme to use here. Because in my opinion, it is too extreme, because 100% separation of powers you cannot ensure in a union territory. But some via media arrangement is to be found. If the central government wants some more items in the state list, it can take it. At the same time, some of the items which are exclusively in the state domain, suppose education is there, health is there. What is the point in going to each and every file to Lieutenant Governor? So therefore, it should be clear-cut differentiation is required. If center wants, they can take some more items in the state list. That way I would like to conclude.
Sir, but there is violation of separation of power, right, between executive and Delhi legislature.
That is true.
Executive would be Lieutenant Governor, and then legislature will be Delhi Assembly.
It's too extreme, what I feel, because too extreme, because it is union territory. That's why I am quite apprehensive using that word actually.
Sir, and this is also a flawed point of view, because technically governor comes in the state executive only, so you can't use this approach. He is with the COM, as like the president is part of the central executive, governor is part of the state executive. So separation of power shouldn't be quoted here.
Why is that so? Separation of power can be in the state also, right? Had it been a state, then we can totally use this argument. The only catch is the union territory.
Right. So let us go to the third question. When the landmark GST legislation was passed, it was presumed, just look at the keywords here. When the landmark GST legislation was passed, that means one important keyword is landmark GST legislation. It was presumed that the Indian federalism reached its zenith Zenith means peak, or you can say it has reached the uppermost limit, you can say. But within a few years, the euphoria waned. It is another keyword, and is almost reached a state of combative federalism. Justify with recent examples. Here it is justify. You cannot quote your opinion. You have to justify the statement with recent examples also. So there are three parts in this. If you watch carefully, landmark GST legislation. When it was passed, Indian federalism reached its zenith. So you can write some points supporting this in the beginning itself. Then the next main part is the euphoria waned. What is this? Euphoria waned for this GST legislation. Third part is, and is almost reached a state of combative federalism. So there are three parts here. First part is zenith. How can you start this question? You can start with GST legislation was landmark achievement in the federal polity of India because states and center came together and states surrendered their taxation powers for the national good, or you can say for the good of the nation. That way you can start. Then second point, within a few years, the euphoria waned. You have to support this euphoria waned. Why this euphoria waned? I will tell you 4 or 5 important points. First is, initially it was thought because of GST, tax buoyancy will be there. As far as GST is concerned, for the taxes subsumed under GST, it was expected that tax to GDP will go up to 7% of GDP. But it never crossed 6% or 6.2%. It is hovering between 5 to 6%. So tax buoyancy was not realized. Second is this fiscal federalism that still continue to be zero-sum game. My request is please use these words. One is zero-sum game. What is the meaning of it? Whenever you are talking about states and center coming together, it should lead to some improvement. But if you look at tax to GDP, that is remained stagnant. So therefore, this point you can quote. Second is GST has not realized the required revenues. Third point is Act of God controversy. When GST compensation is to be paid, the government center quoted Act of God in the context of COVID-19. So this created a lot of bad blood between center and the states. So because of these 3-4 reasons, and moreover, fourth point is, in the context of COVID-19, states, they lost several opportunities for raising the revenue. That means they lost the taxation powers. They were not in a position to raise the revenue. So these 4 reasons you can quote for justifying euphoria waned. And then you look at the next part, almost reached a state of combative federalism. So this combative federalism in this question, it is from the perspective of GST. But in general, if some general question is asked with regard to combative federalism, you can quote a number of points. I will come to that after completing this question. Combative federalism, I will give you 15-20 examples. You can quote them wherever required, even in your ethics paper also. That I will come after answering this question. So for this question, you have to justify, first of all, make a beginning, because it talked about landmark GST legislation, why it is landmark, all those things you can quote in the first paragraph. Then the reasons for the dissipation of euphoria, you can keep some heading with the dotted points. You can write these 4 or 5 points what I told you, and almost reached a state of combative federalism. Here from the context of this GST only this is used. So therefore, it is better if you restrict your answer to the combative federalism pertaining to GST, right? Anything, anyone would like to add anything?
So in this combating federalism part, in
Yes.
GST, can't we write about the recent voting which took place for the first time? That was one of the examples.
Voting took place for the first time, that you can quote. Second is, there was very bad blood between Tamil Nadu and Goa. Tamil Nadu finance minister questioned the equal voting power in GST, that is around 2% or so for each state. Tamil Nadu questioned why there is requirement of equal weightage. Tamil Nadu is big state, Goa is a small state. That is the second thing. And third thing is this GST compensation, that is up to 2022 June, but the center refused to extend it. That means GST cess will be collected till 2026, but that the cess will be used to pay back the loans taken in 2020 and 2021. So these 3 points comes to my mind. And any other point anyone can add?
Sir, can we add a point like that? Producing states versus consuming states, like Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, Karnataka, these are developed states, and these are losing revenue against BIMARU states like Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, like that.
For that,
A sense of
yes, you can.
A sense of feeling came.
Yes, you can quote that because of the simple reason the compensation is ending by 22 June. After that, naturally, the states will raise the grudge because there will not be any compensation. So because of that, there will be producing states, there will be grudge against the consuming states like Uttar Pradesh or Bihar. So this point also you can quote.
So one more thing, we can also quote, I think, petrol and diesel, like whatever non-included items, that's a bone of contention that regularly comes up.
Petrol and diesel issue here is not only center, probably states are also not happy with what you call including it in GST. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. In this area, both the states and the center are in unison. They both don't want to hike. They both don't want to put petrol and diesel in the GST net.
So therefore, that point may not be apt here, because both are in unison actually as far as this petrol diesel is concerned.
They're following cooperative federalism. Yeah.
Yes. Because you see, center is getting a lot of money. Center is getting that money as a cess and surcharge, and states are not questioning that also. Right? You can add one or two more points. Probably these 3 parts of this question you have to write in a crystal clear way. And wherever bullet points or something, why the euphoria waned, you can straight away write those 3-4 points, what I told you. And
Sir,
please.
Can we question the very nature of this GST in our answer? Like it is a destination-based tax. Can we question its nature?
Question its nature in the sense, actually, because of that reason only, this for 5 years, compensation is given to the producer states. Now, no one is sure what will happen after July 2022 when the compensation ends. So I think it is better not to touch that now. Only thing is, as the cess government refused to expand beyond 2022 June, probably it is not in the right spirit as far as the federalism is concerned, because the states are losing a lot of money. So that way you can. Please.
So one point I think you had told in the editorial discussion was regarding the GST implementation committee that is being run by the center's bureaucrats.
Yes,
so
yes. Two things I would like to tell you. I have forgotten. You rightly reminded me. First point is GST, most of the decisions are being proposed by GST Implementation Committee. That is exclusively with the central government officials. They are proposing it. They are just being rubber stamped in the GST Council. Second is, there is a provision for GST Vice Chairman. That post is not yet filled up. So these two things you can quote. In addition to what I have told you about combative federalism, cess not extension beyond June 2022, then Goa and Tamil Nadu issue, then destination tax, please.
Sir, can you please repeat the second point? You told about the exclusivity of central bureaucrats running the implementation committee. The second point?
Second point is with regard to vice chairman. As per GST Act, there is a post of vice chairman. Chairperson is finance minister and vice chairperson, that post is yet to be filled. Nobody is talking about that. Probably there is a news report that this vice chairperson, that post is kept so as to take care the interests of the states. But that post was not filled up. Anyone would like to add anything with regard to this particular question?
Sir, regarding the whole question.
Please.
Sir, this whole question.
Please. Please carry on.
Sir, it's about justification, sir.
And this question on a positive note, right? GST has been, or it is a good example of cooperative federalism, but it needs certain changes as the time is progressing. Like we need to recast this compensation sash. It should be changed to revenue insurance and revenue buffer. From compensation guarantee, now we should switch to revenue insurance. Okay, whenever there will be a difficulty in the GST collection, then center will offer support to the state. And in normal times, there will be no compensation. And then this GST needs to be more simplified and rationalized. Okay, so there are a number of slabs there 5%, 12%, 18%, 28%, like, so we need to reduce them in 2 or 3. And then the working of GST Council, it also needs to be changed. Like you said, that post of vice chairman is still vacant.
Yes, you raised one important point. After concluding this, in the conclusion, though it suffered this type of, or you can say, though the euphoria waned, but still in totality, GST legislation is the landmark achievement. As we go forward, we have to take steps to remove the above mentioned disadvantages or inconsistencies, whatever it is. And you can suggest 3-4 things: filling up the post of vice chairperson, and some mechanism of cess after 2022, and then simplifying the GST rate structure. All these things, I think it becomes, because you see, GST legislation, in spite of all these things, it cannot be stricken off, because it is the best, one of the best legislations independent India has seen. So that way, I think you can conclude this question in the positive note our friend rightly suggested.
Sir, I would like to add on it. I think we can also mention a committee that was Sushil Modi committee, which was formed by the central government to look into the revenue shortfall and suggest measures to augment the revenue capacity of the states. So this is one of the steps that has been taken by the center in this direction.
Yes. And I think it is better to end such type of issues having positive orientation with positive note. That is very, very important point. Right. Fourth one, the politics of federalism in general, and whatever we are discussing here, They will be useful in some other GS papers also. Don't think that they are useful only here, because GST related question may be there in GS3 also.
So,
Please.
Sir, you told about combative federalism. You will give us some points.
Okay. Right.
Please give
You
it
do
to
one
us.
thing. This combative federalism, I will ask each one of you to note down all these 15-20 points so that you can use somewhere. Where to use, you just think over whenever you are answering various questions and all from various GS papers. First one is 2011 census were taken for the Horizontal Devolution of Finance Commission. 2011 census horizontal devolution, what happened? Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, the states like these, they lost percentage share. You can search from my editorials. Karnataka, I think, it lost during the past 2 decades. Its share lost from around 6% to 4%, something like that. Tamil Nadu share also lost substantially, and this 2011 population census is taken. It created a lot of, in fact, states are not happy with that. Second is, you write down all these points, you may use them somewhere. I'm not telling all these things as answer to one particular question. Write down all those things. Second point is amendments to RTI Act. RTI Act amendments, if you see, center reserves the right, or you can say center frames the rules, regulations, terms, service conditions, everything, even for the state information commissioners. Third is NIA Act amendments. There are 2 important aspects which states are not happy. You just write down, because I may not be able to give the notes and all, because this is quite a lengthy one. You just write down the point so that after that you can expand. NIA Act, there are 2 points. One is that is pertaining to terrorism, but several standalone cases, they were included. And the important point is law and order is the state subject. And when you are adding so many things, you just look for the standalone cases which NIA can take over the cases. Second is, for confiscation of property, DGP role is eliminated. It is directly with NIA chief. This has not gone down well with the states. Third one is this Kerala floods issue. It is 2-3 years old, but still you can quote that. As far as Kerala floods is concerned, the center refused Kerala government for taking help from Gulf countries' governments. It said, since 2004, our strategy is not to accept the money from foreign governments, but PM Cares Fund, separate FCRA number is given for that. It is accepting foreign donations. So this is another important thing, that is this foreign governments donations. Then the next one is CBI. I need not talk about it. Caged parrot. It is getting increasingly under the criticism that is used against opposition parties and politicians. Then this Delhi Puducherry, this issue. Puducherry, another issue is there. Delhi, of course, we already deliberated. There is, in fact, you can say, as far as Delhi is concerned, you can take balanced view. But Puducherry also, Lieutenant Governor intervened a lot. Then farm bills. And as far as farm bills are concerned, I would like to talk about one word. Agriculture is the state subject. As per the Supreme Court order of some pith and substance. Write it down somewhere. Pith and substance. When the majority legislation or when the majority domain is in state list, you cannot link it with some concurrent list or union list and bring some sort of legislation. This is what the Supreme Court judgment says as far as these farm laws are concerned. Then the next one is CAA. Against it, some state governments approached the courts, then withdrawing general consent to CBI. This has been done by several states. So this is another thing where you can say the strain in center-state relations. And when you look at the center-state relations, have clarity about the static domain. For the past 7 decades, what are the important dimensions pertaining to center-state relations like Sarkaria Commission and all those things, and parliamentary committee reports and all. And parallelly, you quote these dynamic aspects that gives totality to your answer. Then one more thing is coal auctions. Jharkhand objected to the coal auctions. It said pollution is not taken care of. So this is another important dimension. Then COVID-19 assistance, states are not happy. And as far as Disaster Management Act is concerned, several states felt that center is deciding on its own. In fact, with regard to the orange zones, that red zones, as well as green zones are concerned in the context of lockdown of COVID-19, states were not given free hand. It is dictated from the center. That is centralization tendency some states felt. And the next one you see, suspension of MP LADs. MP LADs that is implemented in various districts, that was suspended without discussion with the state governments. Then one more point is with regard to GST compensation we have already seen. Then one more point is all the opposition legislators were given security in West Bengal. And there is some book, the green book or blue book, something like that, maintained by the Home Ministry. And that gives based on the request of individual threat perception. But on a blanket measure, it has given security to say around 70 MLAs or so. So these are some of the aspects which are not going in the right taste as far as India's federalism is concerned. These points, some of them at least you can quote wherever required. Got the point? Anyone would like to add anything?
Electricity Amendment Bill of 2021.
Which one?
Electricity Amendment Bill of 2021.
Electricity Amendment Bill, I have not taken it because it has not passed. That
Major Ports Bill also.
Major
Port
Ports
bill,
Bill, yes. Major Ports Bill, because fishermen, they are enjoying freedom in the exclusive economic zone. Major Ports Bill that provides up to 12 nautical miles state domain. Beyond 12 nautical miles, it is the center's domain. So therefore, it may create problems for the fishermen. That is state's perception. So this bill created, that is the ports, sorry, this marine, that bill that created controversy. Another one, I think ports bill is another controversy. Anyone can throw some light on ports bill?
The center designating major ports.
Right.
Ports falling in this one.
One is ports bill, second is marine fisheries bill, third one is electricity amendment bill. These three you can quote also, right? Because these three have not been passed, if I'm not wrong. Marine fisheries not passed. Electricity amendment.
Recent VSF jurisdiction issue.
Which one?
VSF jurisdiction.
Yes. This is another important dimension as far as BSF, but we will discuss it separately because BSF jurisdiction that increased from 15 kilometers to 50 kilometers in some states. In one state, it is reduced to 50 kilometers. And now it is uniform almost 50 kilometers. And in some states, it is entirely there in northeastern part, some of the states. And there they don't have any powers pertaining to the investigation. So that is different dimension. You can quote that also because without discussion with the states, this was brought. And what happened in recent times is consultation is not happening. That is the biggest drawback. Right? So any other point anyone would like to quote?
So I think we can also include some points relating to the finance commission's devolution. For example, cess surcharges not included. So that's also a general financial combative.
And that is fiscal federalism part actually.
Yes, sir.
Fiscal
Yes, sir.
federalism part, if you talk about this vertical devolution part, 41%, though it is given, but the overall devolution is around 34%, 35%, something like that. Because cess and surcharge that increased substantially. Now it is around 20% of the gross center's revenue. 10 years ago, it was 10%. It increased substantially. Because of that, the devolution reduced. So you can quote this, and if you look at fiscal federalism, any other point, we will see in some other question. Right.
So,
please.
Sir, coming to water resources, first thing is centers.
Please.
Like Krishna Godavari river boards. And second thing is the dams bill 2019 centers power to inspect the dams of state governments also. It also comes under dispute, sir.
Which one? Which one?
Dams bill. Dams.
Dams bill. I have not gone through it actually. I cannot comment on this.
It was 2 years old bill, sir.
I think I could not recollect. And this single river water tribunal bill, that is, I think that is also not passed.
Yeah, and recent Krishna Godavari river boards were objected by Telangana and Andhra, both states. Center's intervention on Gazette notice.
River water disputes, that is a contentious one. We will discuss that separately because it has got separate threads. States are also partially responsible for that. Right?
Yes, sir. Even Haryana, Punjab,
Which one?
Sir, National Medical Commission Act 2019.
National
Medical Commission Act 2019.
Yes. National Medical Commission Act 2000. Yes, that created a lot of controversy.
States can only advise the NMC, but center can override the National Medical Commission.
Yes. This is another point. You can write down this also, National Medical Commission.
Sir, can we add centrally sponsored schemes into this purview? Centrally sponsored schemes. Many of the schemes states are not happy. Why are you interfering into our own paradigm? Like you give us the resources, you are asking us to implement the scheme.
Actually, this centrally sponsored schemes that we will discuss separately, because why the centrally sponsored schemes are there? For that, because revenue of
national unity for national unity of policy across India.
So it is because of comparative advantage. I will come to that in separate class. Let us look at the next question. Okay. Please, anyone would like to add anything?
Sir, you have mentioned about something about farm laws, something related to pick and substance. Sir, can you please elaborate upon that?
Supreme Court judgment was there sometimes long back that talks about when there is one predominant legislation, agriculture is the state subject. State has got full power to bring laws on agriculture. But taking some clause linked with concurrent list, if center is bringing the law based on that linked feature in the concurrent list, then which will prevail? In the sense, when some law is brought in the concurrent list, as per doctrine of repugnancy, center's law should prevail normally. But here the predominant legislation is agriculture, state legislation. So from the substance of this predominant legislation concept, previously Supreme Court gave judgment when there is incompatibility between predominant legislation and some other legislation, what matters is the legislation which is having predominant domain. So in this particular case, agriculture laws will prevail. That is one point of view. And the center's farm laws, they will not hold good. That is based on pith and substance doctrine. Got the point?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Sir, can you discuss some of the example of cooperative federalism?
Cooperative federalism, any other example, GST and Anyone can put some examples of this? Cooperative federalism, come out with ideas. It may be
Sir,
apt.
Jal Jeevan Mission is a best example.
Jal Jeevan Mission.
Sir, Article 252.
Sir, Mission Indradhanush.
It's about
Sir,
the
Niti
states coming to.
Niti Aayog is promoting this cooperative federalism, and various initiative taken by it is it in the direction to promote that, like that various indices, SAT index, and then this aspirational district programs. So learn bottom up approach, and one district can learn from the other district. There is this collaboration, convergence, and competition is that. So these are there are many examples we can quote in this.
Niti Aayog is one example because without discriminating with regard to funds and all, because it has no power of giving funds.
Right.
So it is not coming under any criticism on that front. And it is promoting not only cooperative federalism, but you can say competitive federalism. Niti Aayog best example is competitive federalism because it is giving the ranks and incremental progress and all.
So we have a governing council
Sir,
exclusively for the
more
CMs.
than comparative cooperative federalism, Niti Aayog is promoting competitive federalism.
Yes,
More
Niti
than
Aayog,
cooperative.
better apt word is competitive federalism.
Competitive federalism.
Yes, because it is having its own rankings for most of the things.
Sir, can we mention schemes like Ayushman Bharat in this scenario?
Ayushman Bharat.
And National Mission for Clean Ganga.
If you look at those things, there are several things like Ayushman Bharat, Jal Jeevan Mission, all these things. But why these schemes are promoted by the center? Because you see, it is because of comparative advantage. Total 60 to 70% of the resources are collected by the center, and the expenditure responsibility 60 to 70% is with the states. And why states are implementing these programs? Because of the simple reason they are in a better position to implement with comparative advantage. But why center has got more resources? Because the constitution framers thought the strong center is required. So there is a dichotomy. On one side, you are thinking that more resources to center, and second point is more responsibilities to states. In this context, two things you can keep in mind. One is you can use these words, comparative advantage. When states are implementing, it is comparative advantage because center when it implement, its cost overruns, or you can say cost overheads will be more because the administration is with states. Second is principle of subsidiarity, very important word, because European Union follows this principle of subsidiarity. What is this principle of subsidiarity? Principle of subsidiarity is wherever, whichever government is feasible to execute, let it be done by that. Suppose village water supply, tier 3 institution, education, tier 2 institution, then of course external sector, say external borrowings, central government, like that, wherever it is advantageous, wherever you can do the things efficiently, that particular tier should deliver the goods and services. That is principle of subsidiarity. So when states are doing so many services, two elements are there. One is principle of subsidiarity, second element is comparative advantage. So if you look at this Ayushman Bharat, or if you look at the other element, that is Jal Jeevan Mission and all, they are supposed to be provided by the government, but more resources are with center, that's why it is giving money. So that may not be an example of cooperative federalism. And if you can search for some more examples about cooperative federalism.
Sir, I think we can pick from the important constitutional amendments because for that you need approval from Rajya Sabha. So in some sense, there's also for certain amendments you need approval from the states as well. So we can pick some examples from the recent amendments, I guess.
Okay. So let us go to the next question. The politics of federalism in general have remained contingent but not principled in independent India. So what do you understand by this statement? Remained contingent but not principled. What do you understand by this?
It's taking a backseat, sir. Like it's not the priority.
No, contingent but not principled. That means instead of citing the principle, it is reacting at its, you cannot call it whims and fancies. You can say they are not taking certain principle. They are raising the issues. If some issue is beneficial to them, they are raising it. If it is not beneficial, they are not raising.
It's sui generis. Sui generis, our federalism.
So it is better to use some right word actually. I'm not, the contingent means,
So that maybe according to the contingency, they are taking the decisions.
According to the situation. Now you see, I will tell one example. If it is principled, suppose this National Capital Territory of Delhi Act, if the principles are there in the federalistic principles, if the states are following, states, they can raise the issue of this National Capital Territory of Delhi, but no state raised that. No state raised that particular issue. And that means if it is principle, because here you see we have seen some of the federal principles are violated, though it is union territory, but blanket power to the LG. Some of the principled stand has not taken by any state government. When it is coming to their aspect, then only they are reacting. And second point, if you look at the second part, that will be more clear to you. Are the states in a position with collective resistance to vehemently oppose the centralization tendencies? The second part I will answer first. They are not in a position to oppose the centralization tendencies. Why? Because you see, there are inherent disadvantages or inherent fault lines. You can use this word, inherent fault lines. Because of that reason, they are not able to fight. What are these inherent fault lines? I have already told you this horizontal devolution. Because of Finance Commission, this 2011 population, some states lost, some states gained. It became inherent fault line. They cannot fight collectively. Second is this GST. Some states benefit after the compensation has gone away. Some states will lose. It is inherent fault line. They are not able to fight collectively. Third is parliamentary constituencies, delimitation. 84th constitutional amendment that kept freeze up to the first census after 2026. Otherwise, by this time, Uttar Pradesh parliamentary constituencies might have gone up to 100. Kerala might have come down up to 15. Tamil Nadu might have come down from 39 to 30. So therefore, after 2026, the real tussle will come. One is Finance Commission. Second is GST. Third is this delimitation. So inherently, there are several fault lines, or you can say.
The other one is with the political party affiliation. Which political party do the states are the ruling government or the officials are affiliated?
Yes, political party affiliation. In fact, this point better answers the first part. Has remained contingent, but not principled. Had they following principles, they could have raised several issues, but some states are silent. Some states, some opposition party, they raise. So that is another point. So these three, four things, they are not in a position to fight collectively. Got the point? Anyone would like to add anything?
Sir, in Rajya Sabha, we doesn't have equal one state, one vote like that. The states which are having more population, having much representation in a council of states like
that is the inherent weakness of our federal structure. And two more points. One more point I would like to tell you. Recently, there is a news item with regard to Tamil Nadu wants to call the center union government, not the central government. And if you see the central government word, that nowhere appears in the constitution. Everywhere it is union of states. Why union of states means? It is not league of states. States have not come together. So that is the precise reason why union of states is established as indestructible union with the destructible states. And central government, nowhere it is mentioned. And the second point is this union of states, that means states can be states can be destructed. What has been done for Andhra Pradesh? And without the concurrence of the states. And the third one is, we are talking about several unitary features. Because of that reason only, several unitary features with a strong center, they came to the forefront. In fact, fiscal part also we deliberated a short while ago. And Rajya Sabha also, you raised this point. Rajya Sabha, that means if you look at US, equal representation of 2 from each state in the Senate. That was not conceptualized in Indian Parliament. Basically, they were worried about the state's secession. Because of that, they kept several unitary features. Right?
Sir, I think we can add one more point in this, is the discriminatory use of Article 356 by both the Janata Party government and the Congress government, and it remains so.
Yes, that was used. 9 state governments were overthrown in 1977 when Janata Party came to power. In 1980, Congress government has overthrown 9 state governments. But I think
I think it's not being done on the basis of principle, sir. It has been always been contingent.
Yes.
So one of the points we can add into.
Yes, absolutely. In the politics of federalism, yes. Because when some government is not palatable, we are using that article. Right. And the collective resistance part is very important. Inherent fault lines are there. That's why they are not in a position to resist collectively. Right. And the next one, Indian federalism should be guided by the principle of subsidiarity. How do you discuss this? Because I told you the concept of principle of subsidiarity.
Sir, about the last question, we are clear about the second part, but what about the first part? What do you infer from this statement?
We infer from this statement, you can write 3-4 examples for that. That means states, they are not taking principled stand whenever their interests are affected. They are reacting in a selective way. You can quote Article 356. You can quote the recent incidents of that Capital Territory Act. Like that, you can quote 3-4 examples. Because when principle is there, you have to quote the principle. No principle. The state's reaction is not based on principles to fight federalism. It is based on some other factor. Say the opposition government, say the ruling party, whatever it is.
Okay, sir. It's clear now.
Then this one, how do you explain? Indian federalism should be guided by the principle of subsidiarity.
Centrally sponsored schemes. There are a lot of examples, like they're implemented at the level at which it's maximally.
Yes. Why I have taken this question is only to explain you about what is the meaning of principle of subsidiarity and all, right? And this comparative advantage, principle of subsidiarity, all these things you have to mention whenever you are writing the answer. As far as your answer writing is concerned, 4 things let me emphasize. First one is keywords. You have to understand the question first. Second is, what are the directive words? What exactly he expects from you? Many times what happens is, question is one thing, you are writing answer something else. Because in mathematics what happens, ultimately you have to end up with some answer. We don't follow that in the social sciences. That is the biggest problem. We write whatever we want to write and we feel that we have fulfilled it. So these sessions, what I feel, they should make you clear about key concepts What are the directive words? Third is core, very important. Whatever way you write, core is also matters a lot. And the fourth part is the way you write, the way you present. So the first question I told you, left side, some static you can indicate, right side, dynamic. Like that, you have to present for each and every question. There is no specific aspect about how to write and all, but the presentation part should give crystal clear clarity about the way we are presenting. That's what my suggestion as far as these sessions are concerned. Anyone would like to add anything? Because not only these 5 questions, the idea of these sessions is we have discussed so many points today. Write down those points somewhere. Try to use those points as an appropriate answer to particular question. So this way we will construct our sessions for 20 days, 1.5 hours each. And anyone would like to suggest anything as far as this session is concerned?
Sir, these local self-governments, can they be called under the principle of subsidiarity?
Local
self-governments. Local self-governments, can they be called according to the principle of subsidiarity? Working of local self-government.
Yes. Principle of subsidiarity, yes. Local government, that is the precise reason why so many items are transferred to the execution at the local level. That is the precise reason. But of course, several state legislatures have not delegated those powers to the local government, right? And anyone would like to give any suggestions as far as this session is concerned?
Sir, one request is there. Would it be possible for you to share some document where you briefly mention the points for these particular answers? I mean, whatever came out of the discussion, or
actually whatever, because you see, as I told you at the beginning, no individual person can give the perfect answer. That is the precise reason why we are going with this type of discussion, because I may be coming with 60% or 70% points, and now you see I am collating some points raised by our students, and through this discussion we are arriving at the most appropriate answer. So I think it is very difficult to document this entire exercise. It is better when we are discussing itself. It is better if you note down some point. It's enough. You can expand it later on.
no.
So committed
Sir,
bureaucracy.
Sir, is it possible that you can also give the questions segregated heading wise, like in the syllabus? According to the syllabus, they frame the questions in the mains examination. For example, there are 20 points in the syllabus they give. So whatever the questions that are being asked, can it be segregated and given it into a word format so that we can actually start writing or answer, like practicing?
So actually I will try to go with the syllabus, but some overlap is there. That's why I'm not giving exactly as per syllabus, because this ultimately pertains to constitution and polity, but there is some overlap to other domains, because specifically we cannot segregate each domain wise. That's what the difficulty I found. That's why I am giving 10 questions, and when I am going through the past 2.5 years editorials, what I am looking at is syllabus wise only I am looking at, but sometimes there is a lot of overlap, right?
Yes.
So we will go like this. I think within constitution and polity there are 10 questions asked, right? 5 10 marks questions, 5 15 marks questions, and when you get comprehensive view about this, probably you may not find difficulty in answering the question, right? So this is okay. That will help you.
So,
or any change or anything, any suggestion?
So,
please.
So can you develop some kind of answer review mechanism so that we can write answers and post it somewhere, and like you can give us a review about that?
Okay, actually that is a lot of wastage of time, I feel, because you are writing so many this answer sheets and all, and that answer writing, my suggestion is answer writing restricted to the extent of time management. Other than that, take the right question, try to build upon it, because you see, for one question, this combative federalism and all, we have touched so many aspects. And when you touch all these aspects, what happens? These points will be useful somewhere else. And this answer writing session, what the students are missing is they are writing so many answers, so many answer sheets. But ultimately, what is the best possible answer that is being missed? So this idea of this session is to give you to arrive at best possible answer. Again, you are writing, correcting. I think that may be cumbersome process again. Time waste for everyone, what I feel. And this way, actually, two ways it is beneficial. One is we are discussing about several core aspects. In fact, I am bringing 2.5 years editorials into this platform. And second is, with the discussion with our fellow students, we are arriving at what is the best possible answer for this and all. Therefore, that way probably you can arrive at the best possible answer. There should not be any problem.
So I have a request.
Please.
Can I? So regarding this connect the dots, you are providing PDF with editorial. Can we get that separately? I mean, topic wise or paper wise, GS1, GS2, GS3. See, because now you have uploaded more than 200, as you said. So it won't be possible to watch each and every session and then jot down the point, because I have done that for as far as editorials are concerned. I have consistently followed that, so I have written the points in the made the notes out of it. But I'm finding the time is very less now, so only hardly 70-80 days we have for the mains. So can you just compile that the topic wise or paper wise for this, that connect the dots? It would be easier to revise then.
Yes. We will do one thing, GS wise, or we will see what best is the mechanism. We will compile it and we will give one by one, paper by paper during the next 15 days or so that you can go through them, and that saves you a lot of time. That we will do. And as far as these sessions are concerned, you will try to jot down there itself.
Yes, yes,
Because we are discussing so many things, it becomes very difficult to document all these things.
Yes, as far as these sessions are concerned, there is no issue. I mean, we can write the point now only when we are discussing any question. But I was that more than 200.
Yes, that we will give Word files actually. That whatever is available, I will compile paper by paper, and we will try to post as early as possible. Right?
Yes, thank you.
And sir, one more request is there. Sir, would it be possible for you to prepare a brief fact file or something, because of your experience with so many editorials and all? You can make like one-line statement on every things, right? On all the issues, 1 or 2 lines, like a fact file, so that we can keep on revising it and use it whenever that.
Actually, now, because again, fact file, it's very difficult, because you see today someone raised about, actually I raised about combative federalism. I told 15 examples. Some of our friends added 4-5 points. So because of that, what happened? Total, almost it became in totality combative federalism. Like that, I think we are discussing threadbare many of the things. Fact file being difficult. In the sense, I could not follow. Right, yeah?
I don't think so. I don't think that will add much into the mains domain, because the way of discussion that we are following right now is more holistic.
Right. So my request is, please write down the points. Please write down the points and try to build a 360-degree perspective on each topic. Today, most of the things we discussed about federalism. So write some corner, fiscal, write some corner. What is union of states? Why it is called so? Then what is the next element of combative federalism? Why the euphoria for GST waned? Like that, if we construct, probably it's more than enough for mains, what I feel. Because if you have the good knowledge about the things, only the last task is to pick up what to pick up. That is the most important thing, right? Because the same question may not be asked in the mains. So friends, now let us wind up. Tomorrow we will meet same time 10 o'clock, and every week when Tuesday and Thursday. So this constitution and polity I will try to finish in 4 to 5 sessions. After that we will go to economic development, then social justice and governance. Thank you. Thanks for watching.